So I'm coming full force with the content this week. I don't know what has gotten into me, but all I seem to want to do is post videos. This one is this is about, obviously it's about films, it's about physical media, but it's about films that haven't ever had a HD release in the UK. I did one about a year ago, and I kind of cocked up on some of them because I didn't realise that some of those actually did have releases in the UK. But these are films that haven't had Blu-rays or 4Ks in the UK, and ones that I think would fit with certain boutique labels. So I got a list of, what was it? Well, 2, 4, 6, 12 movies. 12 movies that have had releases in other countries like Germany and the US and stuff, but have never had any sort of physical media or high definition physical media release here in the UK. These could be down to multiple different issues. Could be soundtracks, could be due to licensing rights and distribution rights from different companies. Because if you go back a few years, you'll see that the Friday the 13th movies, all of them except for Friday the 13th Part 1, or the first Friday the 13th, were released by Paramount in the UK, but in the UK, Friday the 13th, the first one, was released by Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers had the rights to release that film in the UK. I don't know if any of these are going to be 20th Century Fox films that have now fallen under the banner of Disney, so it's possible we may never see these. And some of these are films that you would have expected to have seen on Blu-ray here, due to maybe something like the Premium Collection or the Warner Archives. But the first one I've got, and it's a film that I actually do own on Blu-ray, but it's a film that's never been released in the UK on DVD or on Blu-ray, or 4K for that matter. And it's 1985's The Monster Squad. Monster Squad is a fun sort of Goonies type adventure horror family movie, I guess you could say. It's not really technically a family film, but it follows a group of kids who form a club, and then there is the introduction of the universal monsters like the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy. And it's written and directed by Fred Decker, who would go on and do the Night of the Creeps and ruin his entire career by making RoboCop 3. But then 30 years later, he would also then continue to ruin his career by co-writing The Predator with Shane Black. Now, talking about Shane Black also co-wrote The Monster Squad. This is before Lethal Weapon, before the bidding war, before I think he sold the script for Lethal Weapon for something like $1.2 million. But Monster Squad is a good movie, and it's a fun film that is kind of lost here in the UK. It may have had a VHS release. In fact, it probably has had a VHS release, because I remember seeing it when I was very, very young, but it's never had a release on DVD or Blu-ray here in the UK. I have a German Blu-ray release of The Monster Squad. Looks fantastic. I do have a US DVD of The Monster Squad with the shiny gold slipcover, which is a really nice addition. But the German release is also a very, very nice addition. It would just be really nice if the UK, for once, didn't lose out on great movies from that time period. Most of these are going to be 90s and 80s and 90s movies. I was going to put one in, which I might actually add as well, so I might add that in. I'll add that with the other film that I was going to talk about. And that is a very old black and white 50s or late 40s film noir. But Monster Squad would be, I think it would sell well with UK collectors and stuff. And I think if any of the labels were to release the Monster Squad on Blu-ray, it would. I think it would sit well within the releases of either Arrow Video or 101 Films. I don't think it would really do much with um, any other label. Maybe 88 Films would do okay with it, but I think if Arrow released a really nice edition of Monster Squad in 4K, then I think that would be a plus. And also, I think it would also fit in well with the 101 Films. Maybe not so much on their black label, sub-label, but maybe in their red label. I suppose it's a red label. Is it the red label? Releases like they've done with the Charles Band stuff. They've released them instead of releasing them on a black label. They've released them on their red label. But yeah, that would be the first one. The Monster Squad, massively underappreciated in the UK. Such a great movie, such a lot of fun. And that leads me into my next film, which is from 3 years later, in 1988, is the remake of The Blob. The Blob is a film that came out in like 1955, I think it was. Starred Steve McQueen, and it was one of Steve McQueen's first film. In fact, I think it was Steve McQueen's first film. And it's quite this. It's this low budget creature feature where the monster is a gelatinous blob of bleh that just takes over stuff. I mean, it's a fun movie. I know it was available on Blu-ray in the UK, but it's also available via the Criterion Collection. I don't know if the Blob is available on Criterion in the UK. I have to double check that. But the remake of The Blob from 1988 was written and co-written by Frank Darabont and Chuck. What's his name? I have completely lost my sense of thought. It's Chuck something. I'll have to type it in. I'll have to find out. The Blob. It's not Chuck Taylor, because he was the animator. Chuck Russell. I don't need to write it down. Chuck Russell. There we go. So it was directed by Chuck Russell and co-written by Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont. This is, I think, their follow-on collaboration after the Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, I think it was. And it's a really, really good, gory, like, sci-fi horror movie that it just kind of doesn't seem to get the love that it does. It stars Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith, and the creature effects in it are outstanding. I think it was Screaming Mad George or Kevin Yeager who did the creature effects for it. It might even be Rob Bottin, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll double check that. The Blob. There we go. Yeah, Shawnee Smith and Kevin Dillon. Who else is in it? Jeffrey DeMunn, Candy Clark, and Paul McCrane, who was in RoboCop and then went on to star in ER as Dr. Romano. Who else have we got in there? Donovan Leitch Jr. You see, Bill Moseley's also in it as a credited soldier number 2 in the sewer, which I think was the same year as, or maybe a couple of years after, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where he played Chop Top. But The Blob, The Blob's a fantastic film, and I don't think it gets enough of the love that it should get. Who did the creature design? Makeup. See, I wish that IMDb would separate things by creature effects and stuff like that. Creature effects, blah blah blah. Visual effects, model maker. I can't find it now. But yeah, the creature effects in the Blob are amazing and sit perfectly alongside Rob Bottin's stuff that he did for John Carpenter's The Thing. And it's just a wonderful movie. It's a fun movie. It also reminds me, when I watch it, it reminds me of the film Phantoms with Ben Affleck and Joanna Gowen, which also randomly co-stars Peter O'Toole. But it's also set in this very small town where there's this like creature, this ancient evil thing that takes the form of like a black goo. But the Blob remake is really up there. It's one of the better sci-fi horror remakes from the 1980s, because there was a few. Obviously, there was The Thing, there was the Blob, there was The Fly. And when people talk about those sort of remakes of the 50s sci-fi movies, the Blob's never really entered into the conversation. It's always either The Thing or The Fly. And I think the Blob deserves the love that it's not getting. And yeah, so that's the Blob. That's another one that would make a really good addition to UK Blu-ray in 4K or in just normal in high def, because it didn't even get a DVD release in the UK. The Blob has never had apart from VHS, it's probably never had a physical release here in this tiny island. Again, that could be down to licensing and distribution, or maybe even the soundtrack choices could have the copyright on that might have run out, or who knows. But I think I think Arrow would make a really good choice for a really cool 4K release of the Blob. But then I also think that maybe releasing it, if maybe a company like 88 Films released it, I think they could do a bang up job on that. If they gave it the treatment that they give their Hong Kong martial arts movies and some of the other stuff that they've released, like they did the Masters of the Universe box set, which is an absolutely stunning, gorgeous package of a release. If they did that for the Blob, it would be a day one purchase for me. I think that would be a pre-order, definitely. Moving on from the Blob, which again I said was a cracking movie, we moved to a film from the same year as well, actually. The film is Pumpkinhead. Again, apart from a DVD release in the UK, it's never had anything else since the DVD. And I think it was released by Anchor Bay. I've got a DVD of it somewhere here in the flat. Yeah, the cool thing about Pumpkinhead is not just a creature designed by Stan Winston's studio that just looks amazing, and also Lance Henriksen's performance in that film is outstanding. But it is, in fact, the only film that was ever directed by Stan Winston himself. So the creature genius that is Stan Winston, who did everything from Alien to Predator to Jurassic Park, and just like this creature effects master who sits alongside, or maybe at the top of, people like Dick Smith and Rick Baker and Rob Bottin, like this, and Tom Savini, even this visual effects, special effects dude, Stan Winston, who sadly passed away. What year did he pass away? He passed away in like 2004, I think it was. Yeah, he made this movie, Pumpkinhead, which is a sort of really good film to watch at Halloween. But again, like I said, it's never had a release here in high definition in the UK. We do have Pumpkinhead 2 on Blu-ray, which was released by Jake West's company, I think it is. But it's not a great movie. It's not a great movie in the slightest. But the first Pumpkinhead is a cracking horror movie for for watching around Halloween. And this is a film that would do perfectly, like perfectly, on the black label of 88 films. Not 88 films, on the black label 101 films. I think 101 would do a cracking bang up job with this. I think if Arrow did it, they would also do a cracking job on it. But I think it would probably go the same sort of way as something like Rawhead Rex, which they also released, like Clive Barker's Rawhead Rex. But I'd like to see Pumpkinhead get a UK release on something that isn't a massively out of print DVD, because it is a really good film. So moving on from Pumpkinhead, we have a non-horror movie. We have the 1986 BMX movie Rad, a film that I absolutely adore. I have a bootleg homebrew version of that I have here, that is in high definition. Unfortunately, it's taken from the MGM HD channel, someone that I found online, because it's the only way to get it. It's not ever had a release on anything outside of VHS in the UK, and it's a great movie. It's recently got, I think it was maybe not last year, the year before, might even be a bit longer back, it got a very, very limited edition release by Mondo, or maybe, who released it? Shout Factory or someone like that. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, like it's a great, fun 80s power pop BMX movie, and yeah, I'd love to see that get a release here in the UK, along with another film I'm going to talk about, because there was 3 films that kind of go hand in hand. It's like an extreme sports trilogy, if you will, that follow different sort of wheeled extreme sports, like Rad, the film Thrashing, which is the next one that I'm going to talk about, and a film called Airborne, which is all about inline roller skating. But you could also add something like BMX Bandits to that, and was it Snowboard Academy or something stupid? I wouldn't add that, but I would. Yeah, I'd say BMX Bandits you could technically add to this, and Gleaming the Cube as well, another skateboarding movie, which again I would like to see is Gleaming the Cube get a Blu-ray release here in the UK. It does have a DVD via ITV DVD, I think it is, or ITN distribution. I can't remember. I have to check my collection. But Rad is a very cool movie. It stars Lori Loughlin from a lot of stuff, a lot of 80s movies, and Bill Allen as Crew Jones, who is the main character in this. You've also got Talia Shire from Rocky. She plays Crew's mother. Ray Walston is in it. Jack Weston is in it. Alfie Wise, H.B. Haggerty. Just a great cast. Just a great movie. It's directed by Hal Needham, who was a stunt coordinator on a lot of stunt coordinator and like director behind a lot of Burt Reynolds' 70s stuff, like Hooper and the other film. I'm looking at it as well. What they call them, Smokey and the Bandit movies. He directed the Smokey and the Bandit movies, and he was Burt Reynolds' stunt double from what I can remember. But Rad is a great, like, full-on cheesy 80s movie, and again I think that would probably release quite well to a lot of cult 80s film collectors on a label like 101 Films. I'd like to see them put that out on their red label, or possibly who else is there that would do that type of thing? Again, 88 might do quite well with that. Like, they have put out some non-Italian, non-Chinese stuff like Masters of the Universe and Evolution, and they've done a lot of the old Tygon science fiction films from the UK, like The Island of Death and Night of the Big Heat and Doomwatch as well. So yeah, I think they could probably pull it off, but I think 101 Films is probably best suited to this type of film. Same with Thrashing from 1987. Thrashing is a skateboarding movie. It was one of the films that introduced me to skateboarding as a teenager. Well, I say as a teenager, not as a teenager. But it's directed by David Winters, written by Paul Brown and Alan Sachs, and stars Josh Brolin, Robert Russell, and Pamela Gidley. It's about a skateboarder who moves from like small town USA to Los Angeles and gets embroiled in gang warfare with a different skateboarding gang. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing. I'll read you the synopsis. It says 2 skateboarding gangs battle each other for supremacy, and a member of one gang falls in love with the sister of the rival. And again, like, it's 1986 or 1987. 1986, there we go. Skateboarding, it's cheese, it's Josh Brolin hot on the heels of the Goonies. But again, it's a lot of fun. It features music from Red Hot Chili Peppers before they became big. In fact, Red Hot Chili Peppers do actually appear in the movie. But Thrashing would be a great addition. Again, if it was on something like 101 Films, I think it would sell quite well with a lot of 80s cult film enthusiasts like myself. And yeah, I really like watching these type of extreme sports movies, because when I was a kid, they were the ones that were like left an impression on me. So something like Rad or Thrashing, like I really loved extreme sports and skateboarding, BMXing. In fact, I skateboarded and I BMXed when I was younger. I'm fat now, I'm 42, and I can't do either of that. But yeah, I think those type of films to specific like fans of that type of sport, and the fact that they are quite cult classic-y movies now, like 80s cult classics or rare cult classics, I think would sell really, really well on a label like 101 Films. So then following on from Thrashing is the movie Kuffs, which stars Christian Slater and Mila Jovovich, and I think Tony Goldwyn's in it as well. And it is a film about a security guard who ends up becoming a cop. I say he's a security guard. He's not really a security guard. George Kuffs is the name of the main character. He visits his brother Brad to get some money off him, and then Brad gets shot, and he's able to. Well, George is able to identify the killer. Isn't. It's a weird one. I don't want to like ruin the movie, but again, it's a film that is not really sort of I can't even think of the word. It's not one that you see very often anywhere. I don't think it had a DVD release in the UK. It's definitely not had a Blu-ray release here or a 4K. I know that it's had multiple releases elsewhere. It had a Shout Select release in the US, and it's got a German release on Blu-ray that you can get. You can pick up for $9.99. But again, I think it's a film that, again, we get shafted for in the UK. It's probably down, like I said, with everything else. It's probably down to either music selection choices and the other issue that seems to plague these movies is distribution rights and licensing and all that jazz. But again, as an action comedy, early 90s action comedy with a sort of True Romance, Christian Slater doing his best to camera delivery of great dialogue. It's one that I would really, really like to see get a release here in the UK. And again, I think a company like 101 Films, which has done, I suppose they done like action comedy releases, maybe not. I think maybe again someone like 88 Films might actually be a better choice for this, or maybe even something like Final Cut Films, which do put out a lot of these early 90s sort of comedy stuff. They released Death Becomes Her on Blu-ray, which is a really good release as well. But I think for their single prices, well, for their single disc film releases, they charge a bit of a higher price than you would normally find some company maybe like 88 Films or 101 Films, which would sell them at about $12.99, $12 to $13.99, and some of the final cut films releases are upwards of $17.99. I know there is a copy of Sheena, starring what's her name? She was in that 70s show. Tanya Roberts, there we go. So it was Tanya Roberts was in this film called Sheena from 1984. I don't know how rare this film is, but it's selling for a single disc Blu-ray in HMV for $19.99, which is quite a high price. But Kuffs is great. Kuffs is a really good movie. If you want to check out any of these films, any of the trailers, check them out on YouTube. You can find the trailers for all of these movies. They are not difficult to look at. So we can move on to a film I actually do own on Blu-ray, but I think it's a bootleg because it's a Spanish Blu-ray. And to my knowledge, this has only ever had a release outside of New Zealand, a legitimate release outside of New Zealand in the States as under a different title. The film is Braindead from 1992. It is the third feature-length movie, I think, directed by Peter Jackson, who would go on and do the Lord of the Rings trilogy, King Kong, Lovely Bones, and then the Hobbit trilogy. It was released in the States under the title Dead Alive, which is what it was released there theatrically under that title as well. But the release that got put out in the States is a cut version of the film. I think it's cut down to about 89 minutes, whereas the film is about 95 minutes, I think. But if you can find a DVD copy or the Spanish boot of Braindead, I highly recommend picking it up. It is, at one point it was classed as the goriest film ever made, but it hits a point with the gore where it goes from being gross to being comic to being funny because it's so over the top. It's slapstick gore. But yeah, again, like Braindead is such a great sort of unattainable movie, if you know what I mean. And I think again a company, I think Arrow would do a perfect, like, brilliant release of Braindead. If not Arrow, then again I think it would probably do really well through 101 Films' Black Label releasing. Black Label sub-label. But again, I don't understand why these films have never been released. I mean, on DVD, Braindead is released by Universal. So whether or not Universal do not hold the distribution rights anymore, I have no idea, because it's such a fun, silly movie. Same with Bad Taste. Bad Taste was released by Universal in the UK on DVD. You can't get a Blu-ray of that. I don't know why. These are films by a world-renowned, like, multiple Oscar-winning filmmaker, a man who was made a Sir for contribution to the arts, a man whose film won 11 Oscars, I think. Return of the King won 11 Oscars. A man who has kind of done the same thing George Lucas did with visual effects for Star Wars and pushed them even further. The same thing that James Cameron has done as well. And his early films, you just can't get hold of. You cannot get hold of them because they're either blocked for some reason or there's a distribution issue, because it can't be music because they don't contain licensed tracks. But Braindead's so good, and I need to find my Blu-ray. I think it's on the shelf, and watch that because I fucking love that movie. And the next two films are films that have had UK DVD releases, but I don't think they've ever had Blu-ray releases. I don't think. Maybe one of them has had a Blu-ray release by Kino Lorber. I'm not 100% sure. I'll double check that. But I know the one, after doing a little bit of research, I found that the one of the films hasn't had a Blu-ray release. Oh, so apparently, right, I'm slightly wrong here. It has had a Blu-ray release, one of them, but it's now out of print, and it was part of a specific collection, which I didn't realise that it had a release here. The first one is the film Private Benjamin, starring Goldie Hawn and Sam Wanamaker and Armand Assante. Great, fucking hilariously silly early 80s comedy with Goldie Hawn about a rich girl, which is usually the case with Goldie Hawn movies. It's the same with Overboard, the film she did with Kurt Russell in 1986 for Gary Marshall. I'm trying to work out who directed it now. But there we go. Howard Zeif directed Private Benjamin, written by Nancy Myers, Charles Shire, and Harvey Miller, starring Goldie Hawn, Eileen Brennan, who is fantastic in this. Also fantastic in the film Clue with Tim Curry, and just a great cast in that. It's about a sheltered young high society woman who joins the United States Army on the whim and finds herself in a situation that she didn't really kind of take into account, but then finds that she's thriving in the environment that she didn't really want to be in. But yeah, Private Benjamin, great movie. It won, nominated for 3 Oscars, which is really cool. But again, this is a film that I don't understand why it's never been released on Blu-ray. It's a Warner Brothers film. I don't even think it's had a Warner Brothers archive release. But it does have a DVD, because I've got the DVD. But from my searching, I have not managed to find anywhere that has released Private Benjamin in high definition. And it makes no sense as to why a film like Private Benjamin, which is a critically acclaimed 1980s comedy with a massive name star at the time being Goldie Hawn, doesn't have a high definition physical release. And it's worth checking out because it's a funny movie. And I'm putting all the posters up by here and stuff, and I'll list everything at the end. And like I said, if you want to watch the trailers for these, you can find them easily on IMDb or on YouTube. They are worth watching because they are fun movies. The second one that I was going to talk about was the film Key Largo from 1948. It stars Humphrey Bogart, Edward G. Robinson, and Lauren Bacall. It's a fantastic, super fantastic film noir from the late 40s about a gangster and a sort of drifter who find themselves locked up in a beachside cabin during a storm. And yeah, it's like a psychological cat and mouse sort of game. And it's so good. And I've got a DVD somewhere. It might be in one of the bags because I condensed them down. But I was unaware that this has had a Blu-ray release here in the UK, and it did. It got a release on the 14th of January 2019, and it was released via the HMV Premium Collection. Now, I did not know this, and I have been looking everywhere for a Blu-ray of this that can play here in the UK. I think it's had a Kino Lorber release. I'm not 100% sure. But it's currently going used on Amazon for £26.28. Now, I'd like to see Warner Archive release this here in the UK again, because it's a film that I would love to pick up. This, and there's a Frank Sinatra movie as well, which I watched a couple of weeks ago on DVD called Von Ryan's Express, which again I think is massively out of print now because it was part of the premium collection. But Key Largo is a film that I would love to get in a high def format, because the DVD is really good as well, especially if you play it through an upscale. That black and white cinematography just looks crisp as hell, but I think it would look even better in a full high definition transfer. And yeah, Key Largo is a great movie, and whenever I watch it, I always really want to watch more film noir movies. But yeah, so Key Largo apparently is available. Is it released anywhere else? So yeah, it's released. So in America, the US, in Warner Archives released Key Largo on Blu-ray. It was released on the HMV Premium Collection in the UK. Again, in Canada, it was released via Warner Archive. In Germany, it was released as Gangsters in Key Largo. And in Spain, it was released. There's also a Japanese release. But Key Largo's great. Like, Key Largo's really, really good. Where to next? Brian De Palma's massively underrated Snake Eyes from 1998, starring Nicolas Cage and Gary Sinise. Great thriller, really underappreciated movie. Again, never had a high def release in the UK. Only available on DVD, which is massively out of print from what I can tell. But it's a DVD, so you might be able to find it quite cheap in a charity shop if you look hard enough. But Snake Eyes is really good, and I don't understand. Again, this is a film that was released by Paramount. Paramount aren't really held back by like problems with licensing and stuff in the UK, because they release a lot of the films that they produce, and it was produced by Paramount. Maybe it's because of the whole Amazon owning Paramount type of thing. I'm not 100% sure. It could very well be that. I don't know. But I know that in America, and I wrote these down, that Snake Eyes has had 3 Blu-ray releases and 1 4K release. Yet in the UK, we haven't had a single release of Snake Eyes on high definition, just on DVD. And I would kill to get a copy of that. Yeah, so I'm using Blu-ray.com at the moment to just check to see whether or not they've had full-on releases. And yeah, so they've had 3 Blu-ray releases and 1 4K release in the States, and nothing in the UK. If you type in Snake Eyes and you type in by all countries, for the UK, it's just Snake Eyes, the G.I. Joe Origins movie, or Snakes on a Plane, and that's it. The Snake Pit. The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch, released by Arrow. But yeah, Snake Eyes is great. Good performance by Nicolas Cage. It is quite over the top, but it's not to the levels of insanity over the top Nicolas Cage. So yeah, Snake Eyes is really good. Really want to get a copy of that. It's not even released in Germany, from what I can tell. No, it was released only in the UK, in the US. They've had, so 3 releases of that in the US, nothing anywhere else. Same with, I think, the next film as well, which is another fun 90s, early 90s action movie, which is 1990s Navy SEALs, starring Charlie Sheen, Michael Biehn, and who else is in it? Charlie Sheen, Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, Cyril O'Reilly, Dennis Haysbert, Paul Sanchez, Rick Rossovich, Joanna Wally, she's in it. Directed by Lewis Teague and written by Chuck Farrer and Gary Goldman. A good, fun, silly, early 90s action movie. It has a runtime of an hour and 53 minutes. It does what it says on the tin. It is a film about Navy SEALs, although it might take a little bit of artistic license when it comes to talking about what they do. They embellish quite a lot. Fun movie. I really like it. I've got it on DVD. But again, it's a film that has never had a high def release in the UK, along with like Roadhouse as well, which has never had a Blu-ray release here in the UK. But in the States, Navy SEALs, again, like Snake Eyes, has had 4 Blu-ray releases and 1 4K, and the 4K was released by Vinegar Syndrome, I think it was, which is a rather odd film for them to release, considering the stuff that they have released in the past, being very obscure, sort of low-end, low-budget action movies. But Navy SEALs was a studio release. And yeah, I would like to see someone like, maybe not Arrow, but I would like to see 101 Films put out Navy SEALs. I think that would fit in well with the stuff that they've put out in the past, like Stone Cold and Space Hunter and those type of movies. I think work well for that label. I don't think it would work well with a different label, but Navy SEALs is definitely worth a watch. And I think, again, when it comes to Blu-rays and physical media in this country, we kind of get shafted quite a lot, and then we end up having to import a lot of stuff, and then the costs just go up and up and up. But a good release at a fair price in the UK for just, even if it was a Blu-ray, it doesn't necessarily have to be a 4K, even if it was just a Blu-ray, just to make it available for me to go into HMV, pick it off the shelf, would be fantastic. This video is going on a little bit longer than I was expecting. I'll do the last one now. The last one, again, is another film that I do own on Blu-ray, but I own a US release of this. This has only ever had a DVD release in the UK. It's had a couple of Blu-ray releases in the States and a 4K release. And I think it's only had a dodgy, probably bootleg Spanish release outside of America. And it's the awesome film Deep Rising, directed by Stephen Sommers and starring Treat Williams, Kevin J. O'Connor, Wes Studi, and Famke Janssen, about a ship that is sort of, it's like the maiden voyage of this big, huge ocean liner, and a group of mercenaries have been hired to rob the ship. So they hire the mercenaries hire a boat driver played by boat pilot played by Treat Williams, who takes them to the ocean liner, which is out in the middle of the ocean, and they get there and find that everybody's dead. And it turns out that there's this creature that has basically taken over and killed everything on the boat. It's so good. I watched it just before we moved to the flat, so about 6 months ago I watched it again, and I thoroughly enjoyed every single moment of that movie. And again, it's a film that has never had a high def release in the UK. It's only ever had a DVD release here, and I feel like we get shafted a lot when it comes to releasing films in the UK. In the UK, Deep Rising was released on DVD by EIV, which is a company called Entertainment in Video. I don't know if they still exist. I'm not sure. I know that they were still putting out movies when the movie Dread came out. I think it was 2009. 2011. One of those. I was still working at Blockbuster then. But I don't tend to see their logo on anything anymore. I think they became E1 Entertainment. But again, E1 Entertainment is a company that I don't really see anymore. I think maybe they've ventured more into film production instead of distribution to theatres and stuff. Because you do see E1 Entertainment production at the start of films in the opening credits. But Deep Rising, I love Deep Rising. I think it's great. I think it's underappreciated. It's one of those films that came out at a time that you did have films like Phantoms and like Hard Rain and what else was there? Like Stephen King's The Stand had only come out 4 years prior, so there was this big, huge sort of epic mini-series. Yeah, so back in the 90s when we had like creature features for adults, another good example of the same type of film that came out around the same time is the film Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland. Crap movie, but it has that same sort of vibe. Practical effects, practical sets. Maybe not so much practical effects in Deep Rising, but even then, for 1998, the CGI kind of still holds up a little bit, considering it was a lowish budget movie. And I think that is a type of film that would sit perfectly in 101. I think most of these films do tend to sit perfectly. So yeah, I think they're the type of films that fit perfectly for 101's kind of like culty, but also studio type of movies. I mean, if they've released stuff like The Lawnmower Man and like the Alligator movies and what was the other one they did recently that was quite a big release? I can't remember now. But yeah, I think 101, and like I said, most of these films kind of sit perfectly for 101 films releases. A lot of them aren't necessarily Arrow titles or 88 Films titles. But those are just a few of the ones that I kind of really sort of liked. Well, I say ones I like. Those are the ones that I personally, as a film nerd and a film fan, would like to see get a release here in the UK. I know this video has been quite long. Apologies, I kind of waffled. My voice has gone very, very dry. And yeah, so there we go. Those are the films that I would like to see get released on 4K here in the UK, or Blu-ray, or just a high def release. It doesn't even have to be a 4K. It can just be a Blu-ray. Those are the films that I would like to see as a personal film nerd. I would like to see them get releases here in the UK. If you enjoyed this, I know it's a long video. Apologies for the length. I thought I would be able to do this in about half an hour, but it turns out an hour is probably the longest that I've got to do it. If you enjoy watching this, let me know and I'll do another one, and I'll maybe look at like horror movies and stuff that haven't had releases, or if there's any more films that you guys would like me to talk about, then just let me know. Put your thumbs up, leave a comment. I don't care about the views, although if you want to view my video, then yeah, that's really cool. Like, the more views I get, the more it kind of pushes me to do more videos and stuff. I know I've done loads of videos this week. It's because I've got nothing else to do. But yeah, as usual, I've been Pedro. Give you a salute, throw up the peace sign, and I'm going to tell you that I am out. Cheers, everyone. Have a good one.